Greetings, fellow conquerors. This is darkfireslide, and welcome back to EU4. I've got today a video about 10 things that you can do during peacetime. Peacetime is kind of a boring time in EU4 usually, at least according to most people, myself included, but there are a lot of things that you can do during peacetime to help out your country and get yourself ready for the next war. And more expansion options as well. So in that video, we're going to discuss those today and see what kind of things that you can do during peacetime to get yourself ready for the next battle. Now, one of the best things that you can do during peacetime to make life easier for yourself is to check claims on your neighboring countries and rivals, especially, to see if there's any land that you could possibly take, or look at any provinces that might be of interest to you. Such as, since we're playing as Aragon, the province of Murcia here, which is a drylands, admittedly, has 14 development. So if we were to fabricate a claim on it, which we're currently working on by building a spy network, that would be especially useful for us to take in a war with Castile if we were able to defeat them militarily. Likewise, you want to look at other places that you could possibly expand to. For us, moving to Provence would be an option just because we share a sea tile with them, as well as going to Genoa, of course, since we have a direct connection to Corsica and also share a sea tile with both of Genoa's land provinces, although they will be protected by the Emperor in such an event. In general, keeping your diplomats busy during peacetime is something that you'll want to do because, I mean, it's something you want to do even during wartime, but keeping your diplomats busy during peacetime will ensure that you have the allies that you need at the times that you need most of the time, and as well will ensure that you have claims which reduce coring cost and local autonomy on conquered provinces by 10%, which over the course of a game really adds up. The second, probably most important thing that you can do during peacetime is check your alliances. See who you're friends with, well, you're going to know who your vassals are, of course, but also look into potential allies, people who could, with a little bit of persuasion, be convinced to ally you. In our case as Aragon, getting an alliance with England would be pretty useful since they also really don't like the Castilians. Now, that being said, the Castilians do have a mutual rival in England, which could be a potential problem. However, this goes into, as I said, making sure that you're always keeping your diplomats busy during peacetime, as this will really help you in the long run getting alliances that you need in order to progress. A third thing that you can do during peacetime is to check in on your trade fleet. Did you send them back during the war? Are they still trading? Have you built up to your naval force limit? Can you potentially afford more ships? Are they trading in a node that's going to be good? Maybe you just took a bunch of land in, say, the Genoese node, or in the Sevilla node, or in a node that you previously didn't have as much land in after a war, that you can now trade in and send a merchant to make some money. So that can be a really good thing to do during peacetime, as during wartime, you'll probably have your trade ships docked up if you're the type of nation that has to worry about those sorts of things. Now, a fourth thing that you can do during peacetime is check on individual provinces. Look at all the different things that you can do for a given province. If you've just taken land from somebody else, they're likely going to have a different culture, a different religion, and you'll want to make sure that you change those things. In some cases, you'll find provinces that have a high autonomy, and if you've got a large army, you can oftentimes lower the autonomy by 10 or by 25% on provinces that you've just conquered. This will cause more rebellions, of course, but if it's a large province, like say you've just taken Murcia, for example, that can be, a very large boost to your economy after taking that province, and sometimes can even improve your force limit. That being said, you can also do other things, such as if you're expecting a long period of peace, you can improve some of your provinces a little bit. If you've got, a capital like Valencia that's in a decent province, and it's not going to cost you too much to improve it, sometimes that can be worth a lot of money in the long run, especially in the early game. I mean, everything matters more in the early game, but that can definitely be something very useful for you to consider. Do you have any forts that you would like to build too? Any temples? Any sort of building really are things that you should consider building during peacetime. Just because, again, during peacetime you're not having to spend money on war and troops. Another thing that you can spend some time doing during peacetime is to look at the differences between costs on technology and ideas and asking yourself, do I need to get the tech that I have? Or would getting another national idea be more useful? If you're about to go into a war, for example, and you've taken quality ideas and you really think that artillery combat would help you, it can be worth putting off a military tech to get that idea. And the same is usually even more true for diplomatic and administrative ideas. A lot of the time, getting, for example, 25% core cost reduction from administrative ideas is going to be a lot more useful than unlocking temples um, or whatever admin tech you happen to be at. So that's something you should definitely be considering during peacetime is asking yourself what's going to help me right now and in the future. Um, and it's something, during peacetime it's a lot easier to consider because you're not having to micromanage your troops. One thing you'll definitely want to consider is after a war, especially, check and make sure that your force limit hasn't changed, or if it has, that you may want to consider building up to it. After a war, especially if you've taken a decent amount of land, you get 1 point of force limit per province that you get. And of course, if you have quantity ideas or national ideas that improve your force limit, then that's something you'll want to look into, especially if you do the lowering autonomy that I was talking about earlier. You can get a lot more force limit out of a war than you may have expected, and so building up to that force limit can provide a number of advantages to your nation, such as helping to secure an alliance with a nation that previously thought you were weak, or even just making your vassals or even a new vassal fall more in line than before. And of course, having more troops means that you're going to be able to win a conflict if, well, that's a bit of a broad statement, but it's going to help you in the event that another war breaks out, perhaps one that's out of your control. So definitely be sure to check your force limit after winning wars, or if you've been at peace for a while and your autonomy is dropping down on conquered provinces. You never know. You may end up with more force limit than you expected. So that can be something else to consider. And one thing that you definitely want to look at is in the late game, looking at your troop force limit, or sorry, your troop composition, and seeing, do I have too much cavalry? Do I have enough infantry? Do I have enough artillery? Especially as you're moving into points in the game where you're going to want to be considering getting more artillery, such as military tech 16, for example. So those are all things that you'll definitely want to consider. Another very useful thing that you can do in single player when you're at peace is to check the ledger down here in the bottom right. If you don't know about this, you can go into here and find information on pretty much everything in the game. And one thing that you can do for sure is go into this army screen. I like to sort by, country name, just makes things a lot easier, and see how many troops your enemy has. As we can see here, Castile has 21,000 troops. And use this as a means by which to plan your next expansion. Check your enemies, check their allies, and just see, how many troops they have. Check on their relative tech, and in the ledger they do have a relative army strength stat now, although I don't know how useful it is, as I've never used it myself. But that being said, you can also go into your management tabs and look into your estates if you have the Cossacks DLC, and see if there are any trends going on. If one estate is going to get more influence than you perhaps expected, or perhaps if you have a province that you might be able to give to an estate that's being a little bit unruly. Now, as I said, I don't have the Cossacks DLC, so I can't tell you any specifics, but I know that there are also a lot of buttons within the Cossacks that you could be pressing during that time. So that's another way you can make use of peacetime, as opposed to just kind of sitting around and not doing anything. Something else to consider during peacetime is to go into your economics tab and look and see if you've got any loans to pay off. Maybe your corruption is at 0 and you would like to get a little bit of extra cash. You could debase your currency if you have the Mandate of Heaven DLC, or it could be Rights of Man, one of those two. Anyway, you want to look into repaying those and just kind of managing your finances in general. Do you need to have your army maintenance up? Do you need to have your fort maintenance up? These are two really important things that you can do during peacetime to help yourself in the long run, especially with your economics. So those are definitely things to consider. And finally, the last thing on our list, we need to go into the government tab and look at the, different things that we can do here. So if you've got a culture, for example, that you've just been able to promote because you've conquered a bunch of land, um, this can be something that you can do. So if you don't have something as an accepted culture, you can spend those Diplo points in order to get them accepted. And sometimes, if say you've taken more land from a culture than you expected, and now that culture is 20% of your country, and you somehow haven't accepted them, that can be a huge bonus to you, because the penalties for not being accepting of another culture are pretty severe. I believe it's like a 33% malice in most regards. Something else that you can consider is actually changing your government type. Have you unlocked a tech that allows you to change to a more effective type of rulership? Maybe, but maybe not. In the event that you have, however, you'll want to look into changing to that type of government. And you can also consider, of course, strengthening your government by spending 100 military points. So there you have it. While peacetime isn't the most interesting part of EU4, the wars are arguably more important. There are definitely still a lot of important things that can be done during peacetime, and so you'll definitely want to consider those things. And so I hope this video was helpful. If it was, be sure to give it a like, and subscribe if you want to see more strategy gaming content in the future. My name is darkfireslide, and I'll see you on the next one.